Hi, welcome to the 6th edition of Blues Talk. We're going John, Dave and myself. We're going to look back over Leinster's defeat in the European Cup final against Sarries and look forward to the two Pro 14 semi-finals on the weekend. So lads, went down to our first ever defeat in a European final to Saracens, 20 points to 10.
Indeed. Pretty depressing fare in fairness, but 5 finals in 10 years is pretty impressive. If we could have won them all, it would have been even more impressive. Everybody's blaming Luke McGrath, and I might as well pile into him as well. Kicking that ball out, I'd say anybody who's into rugby has heard that said or said it 20 times in the last few days, but it really was, especially with hindsight, it was such a crucial error. They managed to get back down the pitch with a penalty and get across the line before
I'd
half
argue
time.
that was actually, we're all would have said, kick the ball off the pitch for sure, knowing the outcome of it. But you've got a team on the racks, you've got the ball on your own halfway line. You put it up, you put them under pressure.
Don't box kick it, whatever you do. Kick it out, kick it, pass it, do something.
Keep it.
I agree with you, Jason.
Sorry, John, you have to go and win the game. You have to try and win the game.
How many times have we praised Leinster for when the clock's in the red, they turn up the gear a bit, they'll do a kick like that, and they've done it before, and instead of just kicking the ball dead, they'll try and do something to seal off the match in those championship minutes, and it didn't work out for us.
Sure didn't.
It's only a bad call in hindsight. If Leinster get a penalty or a try off that, then it's a great call.
Sorry, we conceded the ball to them on their 22.
Yeah.
If you're a statistician, you'd say they're not going to score from their own 22 with the clock in the red. We conceded a penalty.
Exactly.
And we conceded a subsequent penalty. And that's how they worked their way down. So actually our conceding the penalty rather than kicking the ball was what ultimately cost us. Kicking the ball there and putting them under pressure when you've someone like Rob Kearney challenging for it, surely that is going to give you a 50-50 opportunity of winning the ball back. And if you're not going to take your chances or go for your chances in a final, when are you ever going to try and go for it?
Yeah, well, we'll agree to disagree on that one. There wasn't even a great chase.
Then it would be a 0-0. Then it would just, if you want to play the way you're suggesting, it would be a 0-0, John.
No, it would have been 10-3 at half time.
I just think that we've done it in a number of games. When the clock is in the red, Leinster put pressure on, or attempt to put pressure on. It's how we play. It's one of the things that we've done. We did it against Saracens last year, actually.
Otherwise, we've become Munster as they won the final against Toulouse, 12, 13 years ago.
I mean, was it the wrong call? In hindsight, yes, it was the wrong call because it didn't result in a positive outcome for us. But at the time, considering how Leinster have played for the last 2 years, that's what Leinster do. Mm-hmm. And even considering that Billy Vunipola won the ball and stuff, the odds of giving away a penalty and all the odds that eventually worked out against us, it was a perfect storm from a team that played pretty much perfect rugby, it has to be said.
Yep.
Against us. But at that point, at 10-3, we had our foot on Saracens' throat and we had a chance to bear down. If we kicked it out, that would have maybe released the pressure on Saracens, and who knows if the score would have been any different anyway.
The ebb and flow of psychic energy, as Jerry Thornley is forever saying.
I'd say... Take 1 second.
Well, all I was going to say was that just before that we had a man in the bin. They changed both their props. This is at about 30 minutes. So I was going, happy days. We're 10-0 up. They've got a man in the bin, and we've taken their two starting props off. So that means their sub props have to play 50 minutes, whatever. That is a great position to have Saracens in. How could we? How did we bloody lose it? We were really going great until about, what was it, 36 minutes or something?
Yeah.
When they got a penalty, and
when we scored, and we didn't score again in the second half.
Exactly.
50 minutes.
The reason we lost it is Saracens were fucking brilliant.
They
were amazing.
They really were.
They hassled and harried us.
Their defence was so smothering. There was no air out there for the Leinster backs. None.
Well, except once.
And
then we could butcher that ourselves.
So, we said before the match, we said in the preview last week, that for Leinster to win this game, Leinster had to play pretty much a perfect game. And unfortunately, Leinster didn't really come too close to playing a perfect game. We played a good game that might have beaten any other team in the competition. But playing a good game was never going to be enough to beat Saracens, especially playing the way they did, because they played near enough a perfect game.
They were on fire.
And John, you mentioned the substitutions that they did. They brought on their two props after 30 minutes, and you thought, well, of course, we all thought they're going to be put themselves under a lot of pressure here now with these two guys having to play, and no opportunity for them to.
Plus, no, Michael Vunipola. I don't know if he was unfit or injured.
He got injured, yeah. It's his calf. He came off with his calf. But like, I just when I saw our team and I saw the bench, I wasn't confident. I just didn't think there wasn't. I didn't think we had any game changers on the bench. Like,
you gave out to me for saying that last week. As far as I remember, or somebody did anyway.
I mean, we don't know. We didn't use them anyway. So,
especially the backs.
We didn't use any of them. Look.
But sorry, Dave. Like, who was going to? Who's going to make?
I'm not saying that they would have done or they wouldn't have done, and the bounds of possibility are possibly there. But if you don't use them, you're not going to know. But I wouldn't argue that they should have been brought on. I wouldn't make that argument. But that's where we've been all season. I mean, we've had the same squad, with the exception of Joe Tamani. He's the only back that's out injured, really, that might have made a difference.
He was in front of us in the.
So it didn't really. It's not something we didn't know about in advance, you know. I think we hung on a bit too long to bring in Max Deegan. I think I would have preferred to see him come in earlier.
I just don't think a forward like that is really going to make an enormous difference. It's someone.
Sean O'Brien wasn't having
it's going to be somebody that's going to unlock a defence. It's like if you had someone who could do what Larmour was trying to do, was jinking out of tackles and trying to break the gain line. Like, a forward is just, we tried valiantly the last 5-10 minutes trying to run it from when we were stuck underneath our posts, which was, you can't doubt their effort and their
absolutely
to do it.
Oh, absolutely.
But it's as O'Driscoll even mentioned in the subsequent commentary. Like, if you think back to, say, the Ireland-England match in Twickenham, what was it, in 2006, when there was a little dink, O'Gara put a little dink over the whoever gathered it, and then Horgan scored in the corner. Like, it's something like that. It's something like that that can only be really done by a back, not a forward. He's not going to be able to do something like that to make 60-70 metres of a pitch.
Well, Sean O'Brien...
the guy who could have done that, we'll see next Saturday.
Well, true, yeah.
Well, Ross Byrne's party trick...
Joey Carberry.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
But it's all for the good of Ireland, so I'm glad we lost.
Ross Byrne has a party trick of cross kicks. Whether I was disappointed that we didn't see dinks over the top from midfield.
I was very.
We've got Henshaw can do it. We've got Sexton can do it.
But John, I was so high up in the stand. There was enormous amounts of green grass in both corners, and we never kicked. We kicked up. We kicked in the air to challenge, but we never once kicked for territory into the corners.
With a few grubbers, but that was it from Larmour.
I watched the game last night, but like Larmour's ones were just trying to chip through. I'm talking about ones that you spiral a ball 30, 40, 50 metres down into the corner.
We did virtually no tactical positional kicking. Virtually none.
And I just thought we became extremely one-dimensional because of that.
And they had our number as well. Like, the amazing thing about Saracens was, no matter how many phases we went through, no matter how wide we went or how narrow we stayed, there was two Saracens every time a Leinster player got the ball to hit him. And hit him they did. I don't know where they all came from. Did they have extra players on the field? I don't know. But they had us. They had our number in defence. And when we were trying to come out of our own 22, near the end of the game, you could see that they... But it was like... You'd expect those guys to tire. We gave Will Skelton a hard time last week and said how unfit he was. Jeez, he played 80 minutes, I think.
We didn't tire him enough. We didn't tire him, though. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, we didn't do anything, really. I mean, we hit up a lot of 1-out and 2-out ball. We didn't really do anything to stretch Will Skelton. So we didn't. I mean, we didn't...
He made a lot of tackles.
He made a lot of tackles, but they were easy tackles to make, John. There were guys running into him. He didn't have to run into anyone. He didn't have to go and find a guy to tackle. Our guys found him. And that was...
I just thought we stuck with plan A for the entirety of the game, and we just didn't vary it enough.
No.
And as a result, we played into their hands. And at crucial moments, like when Sexton got turned over for the penalty, we conceded big momentum changers.
Yeah.
They won that penalty. They kicked it over for 3 points. When like I remember thinking at the time, if we can hold on for 3 more minutes, go in at 10-0. Then we conceded that. Then we discussed we gave away a try in the 3 minutes into injury time, and like again, our as a supporter, as a punter going down into the bar, you kind of felt nearly deflated. I can only imagine how our players must have felt, and how the opposite of their players must have felt.
It was a huge momentum
That's
change.
actually what we were trying to do to them. That's why we did box kick, But yeah, no, those things are real energizers, and they're we talk about them as championship minutes, and that's what they are. They won the championship minutes.
Well, I looked around at all the other people in the crowd who were all Leinster fans anywhere around me, and the heads of the crowd went down big time at half time when we went in at 10-0.
I
don't know if the players did, but
I did find that quite unusual. Like we were still at half time 10-0 in the European Cup match, and it was almost as though we were 20-10 down rather than 10-0 at half time.
Sometimes the crowd can sense something.
Yeah, maybe.
There's
For
more
sure.
there's psychic energy flowing around.
There is.
It's not just ebbing and
There
flowing.
is.
And people can sense something. And I mean, I was watching. I was at a communion. I was watching it on TV, and you could sense it on the television that that had sucked them scoring that try sucked an awful lot of
to be Jesus out of us.
the bejesus out of Leinster. It really did. You could see it lifted them a lot more than it dropped us.
But then we came out
Or it
swinging.
dropped us a lot more than it lifted
But we
them.
came out swinging in the second half. We had a very good opportunity to score, and we didn't take it. But like their defence was fantastic. But then they got the rub of the green in some instances as well. Like there was a turnover, I think that what's his name, Liam Williams made when he was clearly on the ground. But
there's always
these things
stuff like
happen,
that.
of course
They
they
do.
happen. But
Yeah.
but what I'm saying is, in a different set of circumstances, they could have been pinged for it, whereas in reality, or Vinopoulou does when he does his intercept, and he catches it by his fingertips.
Yeah.
If he'd have turned around, he would have been in our attacking
99 times out of 100, he's probably going to knock that on. But this one particular time, the ball stuck to his hands.
It was a real slip fielder's job.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it was. But I mean that's it. They were key. They were perfectly.
And another example from our point of view was Larmour. Like Larmour went through in the first half, and when he was going up the sideline, and he wasn't sure whether or not to hack on or to try and to pick it up. But whatever happened, he just glanced it and it knocked on out. These small little things, these matches change on, and
Yeah.
Of course.
And especially if you've got two teams that are actually pretty evenly matched. I mean, Saracens were quite clearly the better side on Saturday, and they were very much so the deserving winners. But there's not a whole lot between the teams.
Well, they do have a stronger bench. We lost a lot of players in the last year.
They do and they don't. I mean,
Well, can we make up our minds on this?
I think that maybe if we were to pick guys out of our squad, I think maybe we should have taken a risk on more guys that were in the European squad, like Conor O'Brien. I think he might have made more of a difference.
Andrew Porter, I saw, was out training with the boys. Was he not fit?
Well, I don't know. Well, Bent has been in better form than Andrew Porter. People forget that 6 weeks ago Andrew Porter was
he got done in his first scrum.
Yeah, he wasn't playing well, but Bent has
No,
been
Bent got done in
No,
his
but what I'm saying
first
is
scrum.
Bent earned his position in that by being better than Andrew Porter.
That's
has
fine,
been.
but in a final, you want a guy like Andrew Porter coming off the bench to strike a bit of terror.
Well, you'd hope he'd strike some terror.
You would.
Whether he would or not now is another matter. That's the thing. I mean, we were hoping that we'd be able to bring on our props as against their sub props, and they'd strike terror. They didn't strike much.
Nope.
They had problems striking the ball.
And Jack McGrath has been playing a bit better.
And then, of course, the problem that we've had all season, James Tracy comes on, his first throw, what's he do?
Shonky, as you would say. Threw it crooked.
It's just.
But then on the other side,
it's a perfect storm.
He saved
absolutely,
a try by putting his body in front of the post.
Absolutely,
so.
I mean,
Well, there was absolutely
it's that
no lack
perfect
of effort.
storm that happens when a team is on it and is going to win. Is destined to win. And that's what Saracens were. Saracens were the perfect storm, and we were just off at that 5%.
But,
and at that level, that's it.
And can I say that? I mean, obviously, I can't put my finger on what the reason for, but just looking back on our recent form, in our Pro 14 in our last 4 matches, we've lost 3 and drawn 1. Do you know what I mean? And we
Yeah, but we don't really give a shit because we could lose 100-0 every game and still be top of,
Yeah, that was
Still
a
be
set
at
of
home.
circumstances. Although it is form, you can't just switch it on and off like a tap. But I
We
thought
said it all last year.
I
and
thought we might be
look
able
what
to
happened.
because of what we did last year and what we did in the 2 European knockout matches that we did play. And our performances were much different than our Pro 14
But you
performances.
have to be at a certain. Surely you have to be performing at a certain
Exactly.
level. You don't have to be putting 60 points on. But God, like look who beat us, John. They are not world beaters.
Oh,
Like,
absolutely.
Ulster, Glasgow, Edinburgh, and we drew at Treviso. They're the better teams in the Pro 14, but like they're not
They're not Saracens.
championship teams. They're not Saracens. They're
No,
not
but we
Western
didn't
Metro,
play.
They're not
How many
Toulouse.
times did Johnny Sexton play in those games?
I agree. Yeah.
0.
Yeah.
How many times did I don't know? I'm sure we could name a
Kevin
few
Toner
more.
or whatever.
Yeah.
You see, that's. I mean, you're talking about.
But like
there's
a lot,
something
like,
to talk about-
a couple of those lads you mentioned there were injured, and they were injured from the Six Nations. But there was a handful of them that were injured.
If it was
But
a
there was-
Heineken Cup final, it
but
would have been
there
bloody
was still
playing.
a considerable amount of fellas that are Irish internationals that were playing and weren't putting in performances that were worthy of what an Irish international should be putting in, and maybe that's why someone like Bent got his place above Porter because he was just going through the motions.
I just want to strike a note of positivity in that Leinster didn't actually play all that badly.
No,
How Leinster played would have beaten every other team in the competition
they're out tactic
except for one.
Yeah, that's
Unfortunately,
true.
we were playing that one. So, whilst obviously it's very disappointing, and there are things that we can highlight that went wrong, that we could have done better, that we should have done better, that in terms of tactics, in terms of selection, and in terms of performance. At the same time, we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Leinster didn't play all that badly. It's just that not playing all that badly against a team like Saracens isn't going to be enough because they played really, really, really well.
Yeah, I
Yep.
agree. But can I just make a point about, say, we've tried to defend Joe Tamani, right, over the last...
Have we?
Well, I think we have, because he has been kind of his
We had
performance...
to give him a chance,
have
but then
been
we tried to
getting
give him a
better.
chance, yeah.
But if someone is signed for big bucks to come over and be like we are not an English team or a French team that has practically unlimited number of foreigners if they want to sign them. We are limited to signing a particular number, a limited number by the IRFU, and obviously then playing. Now, obviously, Tamani can play because of his passport, but
But he was injured.
but
He might have been another man who would have given impact off
but
the
like
bench.
he was
wasn't
nowhere
wasn't
near.
he?
He wasn't.
Injured.
He was nowhere near the making the Heineken Cup team this year.
No.
Like his form didn't justify him being selected above any of the Irish-born backs. And
Possibly
if
not.
he,
Possibly not.
come on now, Dave.
The point is moot because he was injured.
but like
know?
it's easy to kind of to say a guy was injured. He wouldn't have played in the semi-final when he was fit.
No, he wouldn't have. No, absolutely not.
And my point is though that if you're paying somebody well and above what an Irish player, obviously I don't want to go into salaries. I don't know what salaries are, but I would imagine he's on a fair wage coming over to play for Leinster.
Imagine he's on more than Rory O'Loughlin.
I would imagine
for
so.
example,
Or your man O'Brien, as you mentioned earlier.
Conor O'Brien. Yeah.
But he's coming into and he's taking up a berth that could be could be some back that's in the academy that might be told, sorry, you're surplus to requirements because we've only a limited budget and we can't afford you.
Well, I have to say that you win some, you lose some with guys like that. Like, not every overseas signing is an East and Asawa. Some of them are Zane Kirshner's, who wasn't terrible, but was a bit of a plotter.
But Zane Kirshner would have played on any Leinster team that was in the European Cup. He would have been on the bench, or he wouldn't have. He
generally was selected.
He was not the best player in the world. We all know that. But one thing that he did do, he got selected in the match day 23.
Mm-hmm.
Tamani, you'd have to, and look, as I said, he didn't get selected when he was fit and available to play in the semi-final.
Okay, well, we have another year of him. We'll see how
Yeah.
he goes.
Yeah.
One
But
thing I'd like to say about Saracens, actually, before we go off the subject of Saracens, obviously they're an awesome team. We've all said that, but they seem to have got their culture really, really spot on. You'll notice Toulon, for example, like they were years in the doldrums. They signed shitloads of amazing players, and they still have shitloads of amazing players. But the successful years when they won 3 Heineken Cups and whatever amount of Brennises, they had the team culture right. And it shows that, like, it's not just money you need for rugby. You have to have team spirit. You have to have people who are willing to put in the hard yards, take responsibility. Just because you're paying a guy a lot of money doesn't mean he's willing to get up off the ground and make that tackle. That, you know, he has to really care. No matter how much money he's getting, he has to really give a shit about the thing. And that's maybe unique to, you know, not so much in football or soccer as it is in rugby, just because of the physical nature of it. They have their culture really, really spot on. I mean, I know we slagged them, and I know that they get a lot of flack for being flirting with the salary cap, shall we say, or outright smashing it. But they do actually do a lot of work on their culture and on guys in their team. They do stuff where they educate. They make sure they educate the guys. They educate them in how to be humans as well as play rugby. They do a lot of work.
You're going to Poland must have missed that day.
Well, you know, you can't win them all. But seriously, they do. They put a lot of effort into educating them and to developing them as people as well as rugby players.
It's funny though.
And
I'll come back.
Just to finish off on that, they have an academy that's, you know, they do sign a lot of players from overseas or even from within England, but they do have a lot of their academy is producing a serious amount of talent, most of which ends up playing for England. So, you know, hats off to them. They really have their shit nailed. Yeah, they've spent a lot of money to burst the cap, but
you see, that's what I was going to address. I was going to address the point that they burst the cap. A lot of people say it, but nobody's ever proved it.
Yeah. But they have, like, let's face it.
No, they haven't. Where was the points deductions?
Yeah.
Where?
Okay.
But they haven't. I mean, it's all right. It's all right to say, no, John. It's all right to go. Yeah, but they have. That's Neil Francis stuff, right?
Yeah.
No, it's not. It's Neil Francis, Hugh McKenna stuff, right? They haven't actually been found guilty of anything.
That's true.
Every club has accused them. The PRL have investigated them, and there's been no found guilty. But what you were saying about, like, they bring through a huge amount. They have a much bigger salary cap than any other club in England, because they have more England internationals and they produce more players.
That's true.
And the salary cap in England, the way it works is you've got a base level of 7.5 million sterling, and then you get add-ons for the number of England players you produce, the number of academy players that come through to play for, and educational benefits. So you're talking about them that they do and they do all that. People reckon that the Saracens' salary cap works out at maybe 11 million sterling, which isn't a bad amount of money, and they can add 2 marquee players on top
outside
of
that. Yeah.
So actually, if you look at their team and you think through it and you think through the wages that they might be on, they're not really going that far. They're not. The idea that they're inside the salary cap is actually quite reasonable.
But just going back to the rugby side, you mentioned the way that Saracens they have a culture within their team and they play for each other. I couldn't agree more with you. They were attacking our line, and we were just trying to work a way out from our own line, just even towards the last 10 minutes of the match, and through the referee's mic you can hear Farrell shouting at guys around him, "Get up, get up, tackle." You know what I mean? So, like, even with 10 minutes to go, with 10 points ahead,
and with such big guys that should have been tired,
and 5 or 10 metres from the Leinster line, they're still driving each other on.
I mean, that's another. I mean, we were out mouthy grumpied.
Yeah.
Their grumpy mouthy bugger outplayed our grumpy mouthy bugger.
For sure.
But yeah, I mean, they've got a great. I mean, even thing that people have been laughing the last few days. I don't know if you've seen on social media on the ongoing journeys of Alex Good and his kit.
I saw the end result.
Yeah. I mean, the guy went on a 3-day bender still wearing his match kit. I mean, that's old school. You know, it really is. That is the kind of thing that is after winning a schools cup final. You know, that's proper old school stuff.
Yeah.
And that's the spirit they have in that club. I mean, it's a proper.
That's Tony Adams stuff.
That's Tony Adams stuff. Yeah, well, I bet you Alex Good will be able to play at the weekend.
Are the lads going on the lash in Glasgow or in Edinburgh and kicking the Calcutta Cup up and down the streets?
Yeah, Dean Richards.
Dean Richards and John Jeffries.
So.
But I mean, you got to. I have a huge amount of admiration for Saracens just for the way that they're so relentless. That kind of single-minded, almost
Borg-like, dare I say?
I was going to say psychopathic, kind of single vision that they have, and it seems that they've replicated throughout the club. I mean, there's lots of clubs with lots of guys who are like that, but there are very few clubs who all the guys are like that. I mean, we're one, at least I think we are, and they're another, and they came out on top.
There's a few Irish guys involved, well, a few Ulster Irish guys involved. There's Murrow, he's the head of the physical development. And then there's obviously Mark McCall.
Yeah.
And there's rumours that Mark McCall might be getting the England gig or been looked at for the England gig.
That'd be interesting.
It'd be an interesting one, all right.
He was never considered for the Ireland one, for example.
No, he wasn't. No, well, he wasn't within the Irish system. I mean, the problem was
Neither was Joe Schmidt.
When would you have given it to him?
Actually.
When would you have given it to him?
When Farrell got it, well, I'm not saying you give it to him, but you'd consider him.
He certainly would have, he would have had to have been a candidate when Schmidt resigned. Or
I would have thought so, but they decided to go within because
they promoted within.
Joe put his imprimatur on Farrell, and that was that because that's the only time he really had a chance, if you like, to get the job, or not a chance, but he would have been in position to get the job because back when Joe got the job, he still hadn't gone on this journey that he's on now. He was ramping up to it, but he hadn't quite got over the line.
Joe
and then previous to that, he was kind of falling out with and of Ulster.
Joe wasn't given the Ireland job; he was anointed to the Ireland. Like he was, he was it was a case of will Joe accept the Ireland job?
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
rather than will we give it to him? I mean,
he came upon
walked
him
into
as an inevitability almost.
Yeah, he walked into it. So McCall wasn't going to get it that time. He probably wasn't ready when Kidney got it in 09 because he was only still building his thing.
Also, he was damaged good. Like you talk about Lancaster being damaged
because he wasn't really. I mean,
that he was fired from Ulster.
He didn't actually. He resigned, but he was the last time they won a trophy. He was the man. He was the coach.
He had the war. Well, it's hard to know because there was a lot of politics going on around it up in Ulster. I mean, he, like you say, he won the Celtic League in 2006, wasn't it?
Yeah. That's the last trophy they won.
He had overseen, in part. I mean, we talked about Ulster. That up until was it 2011, 2012 that they hadn't won. They didn't get out of the group.
For 10 years.
For 10 years.
Yeah.
And he was part of that. He was part of the coaching team that had failed to get out of the group, remember. So there was both political stuff and performance reasons why he left the Ulster job, however he left it. So there was a whole variety of reasons, but there was some political stuff going on about it.
Definitely.
But there was also performance reasons why his position was untenable. Because, he'd coached them for 3 years, I think. 2 or 3 years, and those 3 years they hadn't got out of the group.
They won one Pro 14 or whatever Celtic League. Do you know what I mean? It's not.
I think it was the last Celtic League, or the second last Celtic League before it became the Magners League.
I remember being in Murrayfield that day.
Yeah.
The last game, and Ulster were playing Ospreys, was it? And the ball hit Scarlets, maybe.
No, it was on. Yeah, it might have been Ospreys.
I remember. And anyway, the ball hit. We won our game. We did all that we could do.
Yeah.
We won our game in fine style, actually.
And then they got a drop goal that hit the
Humphreys.
posts and the crossbar to go over to win it.
There was a huge Leinster crowd went over to that match, if you remember. Because
that was our redemption after the final.
After the semi-final.
Semi-final against Munster.
So we decided we would go to the last Celtic League game of the season to make up for the fact we weren't going to the final. It just showed the team that we were still there for them. But sure,
anyway, so moving away from the European Cup towards the Pro 14. The semi-finals take place this weekend.
Did it?
We'll talk briefly about the Glasgow Ulster game, I suppose, first. That's played on Friday night. Last time these two teams met was on the 5th of April, and Ulster were hammered 30 points to 7. And I looked at the teams. Ulster actually fielded a pretty full-strength team. They had Stockdale, Cooney, Lowry, Marshall, McCluskey, Billy Burns, Marty Moore, Geordie Murphy, and Coetzee all started that night. So it wasn't that they put out the
under 11s.
Under 11s, yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting game because Ulster. There's a bit of a rivalry there between Glasgow and Ulster. I suppose there's a bit of travel between Glasgow and Ulster, there's Glasgow people living in Belfast, and there's Ulster people living in Glasgow. It's a short trip. You can drive over and get a boat, but Ulster are possibly a year too soon. Like they really have. We said it last week. They've got their act together after how they were a bit of a shambles last year, but for obvious reasons as well.
Amazingly quickly, in fairness to them.
Yeah, really have. Dan McFarland, who has come from Scotland, has done an amazing job. But I think it might be a year too early for them to get past Glasgow. You just never know. Glasgow did tend to come off the boil near the end of the season last year. I think Munster went over there, or Scarlets, went over there and gave them a doing and ended up in the final against us. So we'll have to see, have Glasgow learned from that pain of losing the semi-final? I'd say they have, and I'd say they're going to. And you've also got the carrot, of course, of a home final in their city, not in their ground.
I'm sure the Pro 14 are hoping for
it too. Yeah.
I don't think they'd mind if there was two Irish teams in Celtic Park.
No, that's true as well. Yeah.
I don't think they'd mind. One thing, I have a sneaking suspicion Ulster might do it. I don't know what it's based on, but
they have a chance for sure.
They've been going well. They've been playing well.
Plus, they got it up for a big game against us in the quarter final.
They'll be missing Martin Moore, who'll be a loss.
Yeah,
but a lot of their other tiles have fallen correctly for them. So
then you have Bestie's last.
I was about to say the big thing for them is best. It'll be best last game if they lose.
Yeah,
for Ulster, for sure. So, wanting to give Bestie another game would be a huge carrot for the game. So. Yeah, it should be a bit of a cracker. It's Friday night, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
Should be a bit of an interesting one.
There's exciting players to watch on both sides. I mean, it'll be one to watch.
For sure.
Because both teams try to play progressive rugby. It might actually be in Ulster's favour to try not to play progressive rugby and see if that works.
Play DUP rugby instead. Sorry, lads.
Well, sorry, just briefly, like Glasgow... They finished at the highest points of all of the Pro 14 teams. I think they had 81. The records of all of the quarterfinalists are quite similar. But Glasgow, they won 16 of their 21 matches. But they obviously racked up a fair few bonus points along the way to just stretch them out.
We do have a question from Murdo on this match.
Very good.
For Glasgow Ulster game, Glasgow have the two most favourite refs appointed, Lacey and Clown Shoes. The Clown Shoes, I'm assuming, is Clancy.
Yeah. Is he not TMO?
Intense detective work. Over here, a usual chant at our games are after ball calls. Over here, a usual chant at our game after a bad call is "Are you Clancy in disguise?" This highlights the high regard both are held in on this side of the water. I love the comment which sums up opinions. That is spectacular. Lacey and Clancy together. Will that not rip the fabric of the space-time continuum? In all seriousness, as much as I personally do not mind either, however, the disappointment of Irish refs for Ulster is not ideal, and it only feels... Well, I'd like to remind you, as thanks to ye, Ulster is not Irish. Is not ideal. I will
from a rugby perspective, Dave, please.
You've got Irish refs refereeing two British teams. That's how we're going to look at it. I can imagine the comments start flying in now. It's not ideal because Pro 14 made it clear that they had to go and neutral refs in all games. If only Scotland had some refs, it would be. It would have.
We've got a Scottish ref.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, Adamson.
And also, hold on a minute. The Welsh derby that's going to decide which Welsh team gets into Europe has an all Welsh refereeing team. Could they not have just sent them up to Scotland and sent the Irish ones down to referee the Welsh one? Like how?
Well,
how has that not occurred to somebody?
Well, for start, I'd imagine that. I don't know, but I would imagine the reasoning is that they don't have enough refs of a suitable, because remember they're two different competitions. So the Pro 14, the playoff is an EPC game. Okay. It's a European rugby game. It's not a Pro 14 game. Okay. Even though it's between two Pro 14 teams based on their final positions in the Pro 14. It's not a Pro 14 game.
But is there not a playoff every year between the two fourth place teams?
Yeah,
is that not?
It's an EPC or game.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
But anyway, the thing about
That's no excuse,
I know.
Dave.
The thing about Lacey is Ulster fans hate or have a similar down on him. If you remember when we played Ulster in the final in Kingspan RDS,
Yeah.
Lacey was the referee, and they went mental at him because he
He wouldn't allow them
the way he was refereeing in the breakdown,
to hold on, yeah.
and which was consistent with how he always
That's
did
it.
the breakdown.
The guy,
Um,
I actually like him as a ref.
Yeah, I
I
like
mean,
him as
he's
a
got
referee
his faults, but he can be
he
a bit
referees every match the same
pernickety.
way.
But exactly.
He's consistent.
You get the same thing every,
Yeah, you get
every
the same
time.
thing when after breakdown you can have one dab and then get out. Otherwise he will penalise you. And Ulster couldn't grasp that in that match, so they have a bit of a down on him.
Have you noticed that there's no Irish refs in the pool for the for the World Cup? Like, it's a bit damning, you know. Normally there was always one, possibly two.
We just don't have them.
We just don't have them. Yeah.
No, I mean Lacey's probably our best
I
referee.
was about to say, John Lacey is the best ref we have.
Yeah. You know, we for whatever reason, and
And while I like him, he's not world final.
I'd
referee
love to know
class.
if this is reflective of a take up at the base of the pyramid, because refereeing's like rugby. You know, the more you have at the base, the more you're going to have at the tip. And at the moment, we don't have a huge amount at the tip of the refereeing pyramid. And I wonder if that's a reflection of what's happening at the base, that people aren't taking up at refereeing, because it's bloody hard. Refereeing's really, really difficult.
You don't get a lot of love.
No, I tried it once, and I started on the pathway, and I freely admit I was dreadful. I was absolutely dreadful. You know my laws and all that stuff, but the ability to make decisions correct decisions in a split second just wasn't something I could do well. And I was ruining it for fans, or not fans. I was ruining it for people watching. I was ruining it for the players.
The one man and his dog.
Yeah,
You were ruining.
and I was ruining it for myself, so I stopped. You know, and that's fair enough. But I just wonder how many people, if there is not a lot of people taking it up at the base, and that's reflects through to the tip of the. The only thing is that there seems to be a good pathway for former players now, and that might circumvent that.
Frank Murphy, Joy Neville.
Frank Murphy, Joy Neville, and there'll be more coming through.
Hopefully there will be more.
Yeah,
coming
I hope
through.
there would. I would hope so.
But they do need to kind of fast track the former players, because it does give, like, you. It seems that a lot of the referees don't get the same respect. It depends on where they've come from. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If a guy is 30 and he hasn't played much, it's like as though the players don't really have, or maybe the coaches don't have a lot of time for his opinion. Whereas if you've got a fella who's played maybe international rugby, or certainly, you know, at the highest level in Europe, and he's coming on as a referee, they've got a name associated with themselves.
That only lasts a very short.
I don't
period
know,
of
but
time.
like, would you say Alan Roland, right?
Yeah.
Alan Roland. I'm not saying that, you know, he obviously was a good referee.
Yeah.
Like, he got to
He was a
referee
very good
European
referee.
Cup finals, but the fact that he played for
World
Ireland,
Cup
it did
semi-finals.
not help, did not hinder him.
No, but he was a very, very good referee.
was, of course.
On the other hand, you got someone like Glenn Jackson.
He was a good player.
Who was a very good player. Stinking referee.
But still a professional referee.
But what I'm saying is that.
But still, but still fast track to become a referee.
Oh yeah, I have no problem with that process. What I'm saying is that name recognition and respect for your previous accomplishments will only last so long.
For sure, you've
Because
got to be
not good
competent,
at,
of course.
if you're not good at your job, I mean, you look at somebody like Nigel who gave up playing at 15, but if a referee is confident and competent, the players will respect him and respond to him. If a referee isn't, it doesn't matter what he's done. It could be Johnny Wilkinson. They still won't have any time for them if they don't do that. But for whatever reason, we don't have any top level. We don't have any really elite level referees in Ireland at the moment. Not yet, anyway. Maybe those guys.
Rob Phelan's back in the country.
Rob Phelan. Oh, well then. Back
So
up your grannies.
Well, so anyway, moving our our lawyers just need to step in there.
please say that out loud.
Moving to look at our big game against Munster. So it's a repeat of last year's semi-final. It was 16-15 to us last year, but the kind of the scoreline, while Munster
Flattered
had
them.
plenty of opportunities by throwing the ball into the crowd a few times, I remember. They did score a try. Your man Grobbelaar scored a try
That's a death.
right at the death, and then I think the conversion brought it to within a point.
Yeah, it
They actually had a chance of winning the game because the
Oh,
game
they
had
did,
to
yeah.
restart again.
Yeah.
So
But it's still like, if you just look at the scoreline, God, that must have been a tight game. Wouldn't say it was tight.
Yeah, it wasn't tight, but we rested Sexton and
Yeah,
quite a
yeah.
few of our players. We kind of disrespected them a little bit in our selection, and okay, it didn't come back to bite us in the ass, but it made the game closer than it possibly might have been. I'm not sure we're going to be resting anybody this week.
Apparently there's no
I'd say it'll be
injuries
Bullen to
from the
get back.
final.
I mean,
I'd say there will be, yeah.
I'd say Sexton will be Bullen to get back. I'd say they'll all be Bullen to get back, and
Josh
and
Van der
right
Fleer's
the
back
round. Van der
training,
Fleer's right.
and so's Gibson Park.
Yeah, well, I think poor Luke McGrath is playing a little bit injured because he just had to, because we don't have any other top level. I mean, Nick,
2 into 3 as well, and then you obviously
2
have
into 3.
Sullivan.
And Nick McCarthy is not registered in Europe, so we could actually play him.
Yeah, Nick McCarthy could come into
He could come into the mix for the semi, and if we get any further, the final. But yeah, Munster are gonna be so up for this. They have got to be so sick of losing to Leinster in crucial games, and they've got to be sick of us winning everything and them winning feck all for the last whatever amount of years. Pretty much since they won the Heineken Cup, we
They
haven't
might
stopped winning.
get a sniff of a bit of blood now, that.
I think so, and it's in exactly the same way you said. What team would beat Saracens, and who else would stand up to Saracens? You know what the answer to that is? Exeter. Exeter. Okay, they did shit in the Champions Cup this year, but they'll probably have a good go off Saracens in the final of the Premiership. And because they play in the same league, which is what I'm leading to, it's a derby game. It's North London is not exactly Devon, but it's relatively close compared to us and Saracens. So and Limerick and Dublin, like there's a huge rivalry there that goes way past anything that just being in the same league is doing. But it's a game against a familiar opponent in exactly the same way as Exeter and Saracens would be. It's all bets are off. We say it every time when it comes to the Interpro derbies. We nearly
I don't
lost
like
one
them as knockout games. That's why I don't like them as knockout games,
No.
because
all bets are
you've
off.
got stuff that comes out that's
Yeah.
nothing to do with rugby and nothing to do that swirls around and.
Well,
can
look what
affect-
happened with Ulster
Yeah,
when
yeah.
they knocked out the bloody Heineken
Yeah.
Cup. Again, we might have, if that had been the final, Sexton probably would have dragged himself onto the field, and Ross Byrne might have played 20, 30 minutes. But, it wasn't the final, so we reckoned we'd have them handy enough, and we didn't. Hopefully the same isn't going to happen this time, as I say. But, if Munster have anything to do it, they've got Joey Carberry and Keith Earls coming back. Now, there's 2 world-class players that are going to make them look pretty good, because they're going pretty well.
Yeah.
They
They were shocking against Treviso, though.
They haven't got a lot in attack is the big thing. They haven't got a lot in attack. How they're going to turn that around? Joey Carberry
Do it for Felix.
do it for Felix, yeah, and that's the other thing they have against them is 2 of their coaches have just
Yeah,
decided
there
to
seems to
walk.
be a little bit of something
So-
going on there. I don't know what it is.
So
Did we talk about that last week?
I'm not
Kinda.
sure, but
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did.
hassle in the camp and that kind of stuff going on is going against them. But Carberry and Earls coming back, and the fact that they'll have enough bitterness to float a battleship on.
Earl, Carberry
is
coming
in their
back
favour.
at out half doesn't worry me. It's what if they decide to play him a fullback? That worries me. No, I'm serious. I'm quite serious, because you say that they don't really have a lot of creativity in attack, and that's true, and we've seen it all season. Having Carberry at out half hasn't changed that. But if they have somebody who's a steadying influence at out half and Carberry at fullback instead of Mike
pair of
Halley,
Kiwis,
instead of
playmakers.
instead of Mike Halley, who's functional, but isn't gonna do much. He's not a. I mean, we've all been talking, especially we were talking before the Heineken Cup final, during the Heineken Cup final, after the Heineken Cup final, about second playmakers.
It will be very ironic if Joey Carberry, after leaving Leinster to get more experience at 10, ends up playing 15
I'm not saying
in a knockout game.
I'm not saying it's likely. I mean,
I'm not saying it's unlikely.
Dom asks last year Ross Byrne got the nod at 10. Same again. No, I think like we discussed that. We say Sexton, but somebody asked on Twitter. I just have to find the tweet. About Joey Carberry's minutes this year.
Mm-hmm. He has been injured.
He has been injured, but he actually played. He played more this year than he did last year. Let me see now. Who was it? Sorry, I'm babbling a bit here. Ryan Coyle. Sorry, apologies. Ryan Coyle says, just wondering, and I'm too lazy to do the research. How did Joey Carberry's on-field minutes compare this season to last? Not playing, and not minutes playing 10, but total on the pitch. All I hear about is increased playing time. But last season, if he was fit, he was in the 23. Well, I can answer that question for you because I did do the research. Joey Carberry has played 147 more minutes for Munster this season than he did for Leinster last season. He played 995 minutes.
He got injured against Fiji last year. He was out. He broke his wrist and he was out for probably 4 or 5 weeks.
He played 995 minutes for Munster this season, in both competitions, and for Leinster the season previous he played 147 minutes less.
Okay.
He was on the bench for the final last year in Bilbao and didn't come on.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that's because it was probably such a tight
game. Yeah, I suppose.
Balance.
But to go back to the Munster Leinster match, I mean, they're going to play him without half. I mean, what I'm saying is not going to happen. But
I too. Jesus, I'd do that. I'd put Tyler on at 10 and him at 15.
It's good, isn't it?
I'd do it in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
If I was a Munster
where would you
coach,
put Conway?
where would I put Conway on the wing with Earls on the other wing?
Yeah, that'd be actually quite a frightening back three.
That would. Jesus.
And then the problem they have is I don't think they really know what they want to do at 12. They're Farrell at 13 and they're happy with him.
Scannell.
Yeah, they have, but I'm not sure if they're. I don't know if they're sure about him, to be honest with you.
Would Tyler play 12?
Possibly.
Tyler at 12 and Joey at 10. Like, they wouldn't go mad and play like 3 out halves. JJ Enron somewhere, have the 3 of them at 10, 12 and 15. I don't think they do that. But
they have players, you know what I mean? Like there's
sure
always
do.
talk about Felix Jones has to go, they're going to bring in Rob Howley, blah 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 blah, because we have no creativity. Like there's some pretty good players there. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's about
there's some good tools that you could work with.
It's about tying it all together, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's what hasn't been done. Whether that's Felix Jones' fault or whether it's Van Graan's fault or whatever. The tools are there. They just haven't been utilised correctly.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about like having Conway and Earls on the wing. That's very exciting.
Yeah, like if I kind of was talking about it earlier from our point of view and from our bench. Like I'd love to have had an opportunity to bring on somebody like Conway or Earls onto into our team in the backs to try and.
If we had Earls, we'd be starting them.
Yeah, of course. No, but I'm just saying. But then you could bring on
Larmour.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like just we just didn't have. Going back to our match for a moment, we just didn't have the strength and depth across the 23 when you sort of when you take out all the retirees, the leavers, and the injured guys.
Totally agree.
Well, look, I mean, we kind of said as well earlier that our form has been pretty poor. We ended up somehow or other by being so far ahead in our conference. We only ended up with 76 points.
Yeah, it's amazing. We were miles
that's
ahead.
actually below. Munster got 77.
Yeah,
we were.
We
miles
got
ahead.
where we wanted to get.
For sure,
in January.
Yeah,
really.
in jig time.
Certainly in early February. And after that, it was all off on the Sherrabank. Like,
yeah.
As far as the Pro 14 is concerned, we didn't really try a leg.
No.
Like we finished with an identical record as Munster.
Yeah.
But winning 15 games, drawing 1, and losing 5.
You see, and what you're saying is absolutely correct. It's very hard to know, but how much of that. Well, we know how much of it is. We know that that's because we got to where we needed to be so early, and then the rest of it. I mean, if we had needed to still be winning those games, I'm sure we would have had a very different attitude to it. But we didn't.
But
so
maybe
we didn't.
for the bigger picture, it's a bad thing because you've given opportunities to some of the younger fellas who've now gone up to Ravenhill, played a match up there. I might have lost, sure, but the guy like O'Sullivan, for example, been thrown in probably a couple of seasons ahead of his intended European trajectory. Exactly,
Yeah, you see, this is the kind of thing, this pays you back down the line.
And if you think back 3 or 4 years ago, remember we played Bath in the RDS
we blooded them
4
all,
years ago, and we threw in loads of guys.
Yeah.
And You know,
Yeah.
they got their blooding, and then all of a sudden they had that experience, or they had one notch on their belt.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. That investment pays you back, but it pays you back down the line. It's not. It doesn't
Yeah.
pay you back immediately, but that's the way it goes. We've had 4 games in which a whole plethora of O'Briens have been capped, and you've got guys like Frawley gets a bit more experience. We've been able to introduce Jack Dunn, Ryan Baird,
Scott Penny.
who's out. And is missing the under-20 World Cup, actually.
Yeah.
Penny and Harry Byrne are both
right,
going to miss it, along with Hawkshaw, who we knew was going to miss it anyway.
Yeah.
But so that investment will come good, maybe next year, maybe the year after. So and that's the thing. I mean, people are talking about it. I mean, to a certain extent, we're saying about Joe Twanny, but we leave that to one side. People are saying, "Oh, do we need to go out and sign? What do we have to do to get better next year? Do we need to go out and sign lower farm players?" No, because the really, really super talented guys that we blooded this year will be another year down the line next season. So
Well, we still could be losing one or other of the Carney brothers.
we could.
So we don't know. That hasn't been.
But there are. I mean, we have players, and we have, we have Rob Kearney, the perfect replacement for Rob Kearney there, fullback, and Joey Carr. Oh no.
Your nemesis has allegedly been given a 4-year contract,
Yeah.
Dave.
Yeah.
So you must be pleased about that.
I am. I'll tell you. If anyone out there has a copy of the second House Martins album, I need it because I played through this one. The one I have, because the people have grinned themselves to death. I've just worn it right through. It's actually like a hole in my thing. Look, he is what he is.
He's done
Yeah,
a great
where we
job
are.
for Irish rugby.
Well, we'll see if we win a world. If we win
Well,
a
we've-
knockout game, then
Nobody-
I
Well,
will,
you
yeah.
know, we've got to
Nobody
European
likes him,
Cup semi-finals,
but
European Cup
He
finals,
seems to be doing the business.
Grand Slams, winning it last year, winning
Yeah,
the
all the
Pro.
stuff we've done already before he came.
If
in.
all 4 provinces hate him, he must be doing something right.
No, it just means all 4 provinces. I've had this argument with you before.
I
That's
know.
not what it means. It just means all 4 provinces hate him.
I don't know.
If he was out,
I'm not
if he
saying
was-
I love the
If
guy.
he was out chopping the heads off badgers, right? All 4 provinces would hate him. That doesn't mean he's doing a good job, John.
I'm not saying that I love the guy at all. But all I'm
Actually,
saying
2 of the
is,
provinces would actually like him if he was out culling badgers. But anyway,
all I'm saying is that what he was tasked with was to roll back the players we're looking at to 15 or 16-year-olds instead of 19, 20-year-olds, which is pretty much what he's done. He's streamed. They've done a lot of
Jesus, I
work.
suggested that back in 2004 on Munster fans. Where's my job?
Look, it's not who suggested it; it's who implemented it. Whether it's him or not, it coincided with what he was tasked with. Coincided with when he arrived and it happening. Now,
Ultimately,
other people may have done the work. I don't bloody know, but
he'll be.
he's done something right.
The success of Irish rugby will now, for whatever reason, I don't agree. But anyway, the success of Irish rugby will be judged on how we do in the World Cup.
Yeah, for sure.
And to be honest with you, if we win a knockout match,
We'll all be happy.
then he'll have done a good job. I mean, I'll have to admit that, because we'll have gotten further than we've ever gotten before in a World Cup.
Yeah.
So that'll be it. But it's hard to know.
Well, if you look at the can I say trajectory?
trajectory,
Just did.
Look at the trajectory of Irish teams, 2007, 2011, 2015, 2019 in the World Cup. 0 depth 2007, bit more 2011, bit more but not enough in 2015, shitloads in 2019. Whether it'll be enough, I don't know. If we lose 5 crucial players in the last pool game this time, are we going to be able to face South Africa or New Zealand? Who knows?
I will.
But we do have more
say,
depth.
I mean, I talked about winning a knockout game. I mean, if we have to play New Zealand in a knockout game, obviously I can't hold that against them. Even I'm not that cruel. In the quarter final, I mean, obviously I'm not that quite that. Maybe I am. No, I'm not. I'm not quite that evil. But
Well, they beat New Zealand the last few times they played them, sure.
Yeah.
Ireland, they did. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, we should make him head coach instead of that bluffer we had in the job immediately.
I think we should make Tyke Furlong head coach because he's a brilliant record against New Zealand.
Or James Roy, right? Yeah.
Anyway, boys, back to our game. So, quick predictions before we go.
I'd say there'll be some scores.
I will.
It could be the first 0-all.
I will say that Leinster are going to win it. Not massively confidently saying it. I just have a nasty feeling about Munster that like they're lying there in the long grass just waiting to kick the shite out of us.
You mean my front garden? Yeah.
And you're doing a lot for the bees of Ireland, Dave. I have to say, you're really,
I went to cut my grass the other day, right, and I blew the fuses on 3 electric lawnmowers.
that was your first mistake, using an electric lawnmower on 58-foot grass.
I'm going 15-9 to Leinster.
Okay.
Okay, 15-9. I'll have to go for something different, so I'll go for 21.
16-10.
21-12.
I'd say a narrow victory, maybe 3 points in it. But I said I put extra seats in, and they're all sold out.
It's
so like a lot of interest in this, you know. Like I mean,
There was actually Munster returns today. There were extra tickets on sale today. Well, I presume there were
but
Munster.
they've all sold out again.
Munster returns, but they're gone again. Yeah.
But it could be any kind of credit card returns. We don't know. No, it just shows. I mean, these games are still super attractive to fans, particularly a competitive one.
But I think what makes it kind of unique is that it's in the. I know we had one last year.
It's rare.
It is rare.
We don't get to play them
normally. I know for the last 9 years, whatever it is, they've moved them to the Aviva, and it is kind of what it is. But it's not as intimate. It's not as you're not in your own familiar RDS background.
It's not as febrile. It's not as fervent.
October 2008
Yes.
was the last time Munster won in the RDS, as far as I remember. 18-0. They hockeyed us.
Yeah, that's right.
That game.
Yeah.
I brought a Munster friend of mine
to Newgrange. I was telling you earlier, remember? That was the day after that game.
I brought a Munster friend of mine thinking that all our lovely new signings were CJ van der Linde absolutely pushed Marcus Horan's head up his arse and we hockeyed him. Didn't work out so well, although I did go on to predict that we'd win the Heineken Cup and they'd win the Magners League on the way out of the ground that day. And I was right.
As somebody said,
and you're walking past Paddy Power
for the first and only time in the history of the world.
Somebody said after that match, they took the cider, but we had the lager.
That was me that said that.
Was it you?
Yeah.
So it's great to have that game back in the audience. I mean, we had it last year, a full stadium with something really on the line. It makes a big difference.
Yeah, and it was a nice sunny day, and hopefully we get another one this week.
That would be lovely.
Anyway, boys, as ever, thanks very much, and thanks a million for watching. Cheers.